right, there we go. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the stream on a Thursday. It's Thursday, right? Yeah, it's Thursday. Welcome, everyone. We have a fun show today. At least I think so. At least I hope so. At least I plan so. What we're going to do today is make some paradigms. So we have, for the proto-language, we're going back to Qal, the Qal family, by the way. So in Proto-Qal, we have a more or less complete verb paradigm, and we have a more or less complete noun paradigm. We have a bunch of case endings, and we have a bunch of verbal endings and different stems and fun things like that. And what we're going to do today is go derive from that what the systems would like in USTAMIYA Qal and in Lang 3b, which we will give a name to today. So that's the vague plan. First, we're going to do some USTAMIYA stuff. We're going to drag the inherited verb and noun paradigms into the future. And we are going to see what happens and see if there's going to be any analogy that's going to, be fun, mess with things. And then we're going to do the same for Lang 3b. I've gone into Lexergy and I've made all of the rules that get us to Lang 3b from Proto-Qal. Lang 3b, for those who do not know this esoteric name off the top of your head, Lang 3b is a very, very, very phonologically divergent descendant language. And maybe I'll check with Lucy to see that all the technical stuff is good. And then once we've got that sorted out, we can jump in and I can do less yammer, and more show. Lucy, does the sound, does this video, everything, does it all look good? One thing I did work on, and I actually had it in place for Tuesday, but I didn't mention it, was I figured out, due to some help from the chat, how to get dark mode working. So now, if you're watching these videos late at night, you're not going to have that sort of white light just boring into your eyes. And that's always fun. Okay, so we are good to go. Let's, and I even set up hotkeys. So I'm getting real pro here. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to show you Lang 3b so that we can refresh our memories on it. Then I'm going to go out and do the intro for YouTube. Okay, so let's just take a look at Lang 3b. So in our comparative lexicon here, we have, I'm going to have to hide a bunch of these because they're not relevant to the current discussion. And neither is Lang 3a. But here are some cognates between USTAMIYA and Lang 3b. So we have aviduch and aividauch. We have fakuli and hauroil. We have USTAMIYA and USTAMI. We have kuli and keul. So there's a lot of influence from Old French, actually, in Lang 3b, in the path that it's taken. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to go back to this view here, and I'll do the intro for YouTube, and then we'll go in and work on USTAMIYA. Is that you, YouTube? Are you joining us today? We are going to be working on our big project, USTAMIYA Qal. So I hope you are joining us today, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be deriving a noun paradigm and a verb paradigm from the proto-language, which we've already developed in this playlist. So check out the playlist if you haven't seen any of that already. This will make a lot more sense probably if you do. And then we're going to derive those paradigms and bring them into the modern language, into this descendant language, USTAMIYA. So without further ado, let's go in and get started. Whoa, hotkeys, excellent. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to look at the Proto-Qal grammar, which we have here. And we let's start with the verbs. And so let's take the Proto-Qal grammar. Let's get the USTAMIYA grammar up. And I've made these little sections here. I don't know. I'll have to move something so you can see them better. Boom. Noun paradigm, verb paradigm. So let's start off with the nouns. Let's start off with the nouns. Oh, hold on. Wait, I'm getting a message from Lucy here. All right, Lucy, what's going on? We can't see the chat on screen. That is a mystery to me too. I do not know how that works per se. It is loaded up. Should be working. Okay, here's where I raise up my hands and I say, I don't know how this really works. So if any, if I'm going to just keep going because I don't know how to fix it, and I'm not going to subject you to my technical wranglings. But if anyone does know something, I'd be delighted to hear about it. Okay, so we're going to talk about verb paradigms. And we're talking about noun paradigms. What's going on here? You see what happens? These things, they throw me. They throw me and then I'm lost. Okay, but you know what? We recover and we move on. So we have our case forms in the proto-language. We have these, actually let's zoom up here a bit. We have our primary cases. Nominative is no ending. So we can just leave that here. Vocative so far is no ending. We might change that. Genitive is this ch ending. And these are the primary cases, which means that they don't, you can't stack one after the other. You can have a primary case and you can stack these other kinds of cases, postpositional cases after them, but you cannot stack a primary case after a postpositional case or on top of another primary case. So the postpositional cases are accusative, dative, simulative, just meaning like, causal, because of, comitative, meaning and or with, locative, in, at, this kind of thing, and instrumental, with or by means of. And what we're going to do, we're going to take these. Let's find a nice noun that we can use. So let's go to our comparative lexicon and let's find a really juicy noun. A really juicy noun, maybe musatachakwa, friend. Yeah, let's use that, musatachakwa, and we are going to. So this is actually a derived form of its own. It's a nominalized verb from the verb musata, friendly. So what we're going to do is we are going to take this and put it into, oh, that's got the other sound changes in it, so 1 second. So this noun goes into USTAMIYA as mistak, meaning friend. So that is going to be our nominative case, mistak. So nominative is going to be just mistak. And then we need to, I don't know if we want to, let's write it out in full, nominative. And then let's take our other case forms and we'll go find there it is. So we have nominative, genitive, vocative, and all of these. Oh, we've overridden our verb, but that's fine. You go down here. Excellent. Okay. So we have mistak, and mistak will be the same for vocative because nothing changes there. And then I need to get our sound changes for USTAMIYA. This is long. And we're going to put it into Lexergy. Okay, and if you're not familiar with Lexergy, Lexergy is kind of an awesome sound change applier, which I learned about from you, from the community. Thank you so much. This has changed my life. So ignore this. This is something I was working on before. You will see what that pertains to later. So we have musatachakwa, and let's just verify that it does indeed, in fact, indact, in feed, I don't know. Whether it does actually go to mistak. It does. Okay, so we have mistak. This 2 here is just indicating that it's a heavy syllable, which we need for stress assignment, but you don't have to worry about it. Mistak. So let's see what happens when we add other endings to it. So let's find, where are our other endings? Our other endings are in the Proto-Qal grammar, and we have these forms. So this is going to be interesting. Musatachakwa, musatachakwacha, musatachakwa ukwe, musatachakwanama, musatachakwa ufo. I'm not going to say them all because it's getting a bit repetitive even for me. And we have all of these lovely case forms. And basically we can just run them through our sound changes. And so let's do it. And I believe we will have something kind of fun at the end of it. So boom. Excellent. And it even worked. Sometimes it doesn't work and then I flail. But here it actually worked. So what do we have? Can we make this a bit bigger? We can't. Okay, that's fine. So remove these and let's just get the forms. So we have, for the nominative and vocative, we have mistak. For the genitive, musatachakwacha, we just have mistak as well. Because we're deleting schwas and we are removing these intervocalic ch. Okay, so that gets us the same thing. But then here's where it gets kind of interesting. So when we have this form musatachakwaukwe, which I believe is the accusative. Is that the accusative? Remind me. Yes, it is. It's the accusative. We get something very different. We get mistariri. So this ends up looking in our orthography like M-I-S-T-A Q-I-X-I. And you may be wondering why the first voiced velar fricative is Q and the second is X. So this requires a bit of a detour, and I'll introduce a little thing I did off screen. I know I'm not supposed to do things off screen, but this just bothered me. So we have in USTAMIYA a rule where obstruents are voiced intervocalically. So we have, this is why we have a, what's going on is this velarized, this labiovelar stop is going to turn into a uvular fricative, a voiceless uvular fricative in USTAMIYA, ch. And because it is intervocalic, it's going to be between these two E vowels in USTAMIYA. So we get, instead of I-chi, we get I-ri. Okay, great. That, so far, so good. The, this form, oh, no, I think I've made a mistake. I've made a mistake again. Okay, so this should actually be Q-I-Q-I. Okay. Apologies. Sometimes I get a bit mixed up with these things. We can find another version, another word that has that property. Let's just, so I can explain this, let's just imagine that instead of ukwe, we had uhwe, and then it would be true. Okay, so this this voiceless velar, voiceless uvular fricative, ch, gets voiced in between the two vowels, I-ri. What happens to the voiceless uvular stop? The voiceless uvular stop also should get voiced in between two vowels because it is an obstruent as well. But there's something about voiced uvular stops that's typologically a bit rare. And what often happens is you will get a voiced velar fricative matching with a voiceless, voiced uvular fricative matching with a voiceless uvular stop. Whew. Okay, so why is that? One explanation that I have seen when I briefly looked it up sometime over the past few days is that for voicing you need the tongue root to be a little bit advanced, and for uvulars you need the tongue root to be a little bit retracted, or maybe it's not the tongue root, maybe it's the very back of the tongue body, but something back there is at cross purposes. And so that's what turns us against voiced uvular stops. And so when we have a voiceless uvular stop intervocalically, it's going to spirantize. It's going to turn into a voiced uvular fricative. That's the new development. Mistariri. Now I'll turn back to what it actually is, because essentially what it is we're merging uvular stops and fricatives in intervocalic position. Both are going to a voiced fricative. Mistariri. Clear as mud. Raven, I have not yet decided against the vowel coalescence rules. I just haven't revisited it yet. I think it might actually be kind of cool. But yeah, to be honest, I totally forgot. Now that you mention it again, I am once again intrigued. So perhaps we can play with that as well. I'm always reticent to play with Lexergy on screen because it's sometimes people find it painful to watch someone struggling through something, and you know, that's something I'm hoping to avoid causing pain if at all possible, but it's sometimes inevitable. So we have this form mistak, mistari, mistak. Sorry, this mistari is accusative, and this is genitive. So we have a nice syncretism here between nominative, genitive, and vocative. Okay, so now we can move on to dative. After all that ultra clear explanation of the merger, we can revisit that if it wasn't clear a bit later. So here we have mistarinam. And the orthography is more phonemic, as often orthographies are. Mistarinam. Note that the stress here is on the antepenultimate syllable, sta. And the stress here is on the penultimate syllable, ri. So mistariri, mistarinam. And this has to do with the vagaries of which syllables get lose their vowels. The position of stress gets shuffled about due to the loss of certain vowels. Okay, so then we can have our this relevant question coming up from Moon Truther. Both intervocalic Q and X are pronounced as a voiced uvular fricative. Exactly. The thing that determines the symbol we write in the romanization is, well, we could have there could be two answers. One is etymology. We would need to know a bit more about the con world in order to ascertain whether that is a relevant factor. Whether they would be aware of the etymologies of these words. But in the case of mistak, we have an alternation. And so that is going to weigh against us using X for this one. But for this one, we have no alternation because the form is uque. It's never going to actually show up as a stop. So in that case, we may actually want to write it like this. Mistariri. That I could see doing. Because it wouldn't be accessible to the speakers of this language that this is secretly, underlyingly a stop rather than a fricative. Because there'd be no independent evidence for that. That would just be, if you imagine a learner of this language being presented with this iri form, why would the learner say, that must be a stop? You know, I think the simpler explanation is that as a fricative. So we could actually write it like this. And I actually like that a little bit better. That's a good point. Thank you. Okay, so then we have our simulative, the thing that means like. And this is our ufo suffix. What does it come into? Mistarivu. Mistarivu. So how are we going to write that? M-I-S-T-A-Q. I F U. That sounds a bit off when I say it, when I spell it out like that, but mistarivu, excuse me. Why is the stress being attracted to this syllable? I'll write all the cases where we have penultimate stress like that, just so that we know. Because we have these vowels in hiatus in the protoform, and that's attracting stress. Okay. Causal. Musataqua pina. Pina. I shouldn't aspirate that. We get mistaribin. Mistaribin. Comitative, we get mistaqpa. Mistaqpa. And then for locative, we get mistaqmu. And then for instrumental, we get mistaqmi. Yeah. Or if our rule, I forget, does our rule? No, our rule is between vowels, not between sonorants. And then Raven, if we have the coalescence, yeah, what we could do, what we could do. Yeah, let's just play with it without using Lexergy. Let's just play with it. So if we had a coalescence, if we went u, if schwa u is becoming o, a long o, then we would have mistahuri. Yes. Greetings, George. Welcome. Mistahuri. So that's an option. Do we have any other cases? Yeah, we have this here too. So mistarufo, ruvo, ruvu, something like that. So we have the same, which is going to be u. And so we have that. Cool. So that's a kind of a cool noun paradigm. I like it. I like the fact that we have stress shifting suffixes. That's kind of cool. Even though we don't have contrastive vowel length in USTAMIYA, we have the ghost of contrastive vowel length in an earlier form of the language. Yeah. How to use the sound changer. This is quite the question. It's actually fairly complicated, but oh, apologies. Yeah, I've cut something off. Thank you, Adam. The sound changer is, I'll show you. Here's the documentation. As you can see, yeah, it's involved. But the basic principle, if you are not familiar with sound, I don't know if you're familiar with sound changers, this might be review, but the basic principle is you have rules that take something and turn it to something else in a particular environment. So if you wanted to express something like the vowel O raises to U when at the end of a word, you know, this is I think something that happens in Portuguese. We would write it like this. So the thing that changes on the left, O, what the outcome of the changes on the right of the arrow, and then the slash, and then the environment. And the environment is written with this underscore placeholder representing the thing that changes, and then you can have things on its left and things on its right. So here we have this symbol which refers to the edge of the word on the right, indicating that this change occurs only when the sound is in word final position. Yeah. So Lexergy is a really impressive, sound changer. As Moon points out, it's practically a programming language unto itself. It allows you to do a ton of things, and I feel like I haven't even really scratched the surface of it. but it was a good. It's not simple, and you have to learn its ways, but it'll get the job very well done. So basically, what we have here is this very simple verb paradigm. I see something and I say it. This is my curse. This very simple sound change here, and essentially what we have all throughout here are more elaborate versions of that, and some things that help Lexergy do its job. So we can look at that in depth at some point, but I think for now maybe we should look and see if there's another kind of noun that might have a different paradigm, so we can kind of keep on topic for the people who are watching on YouTube. I know they like things to be relatively focused, which means I'm completely out of luck, but ... Okay, so let's see. We can let's put in another noun. What would be a good one? Something with a lot of schwas in it, because that's going to end up being interesting. Okay. From our fable, we have the word for crow. Huasachqua. And since this has the chaqua as well, it's going to probably have some similarities, but I think it would be nice to know what happens with it. The difference, of course, is that we have a chaqua suffix on the on musatachaqua, and we have chaqua on huasachqua. And the reason for that, it's a few videos back, but it has to do with what kind of a stem class the verb was in Proto-Qal. Okay, question before I move on from Raven, is this the main call? So this is USTAMIYA call. This is the kind of the core language that we've been working on, other than the proto language. So this was our starting point. We're kind of coming back to the starting point and fleshing it out with our knowledge that we've gained from creating the proto language. And then after that, we will go over and look at Lang 3b and give it a proper name. That's our secondary language in this family. And we have all sorts of other ones. I'm kind of getting the urge to make a whole con world for this. So stay tuned for that. There may be things slightly in the works. Stay tuned. So let's put some case forms on this. Huasachaqua. Okay. My voice is gonna give out if I try to pronounce all of these. So let me just go here and get our forms, and let's go back to Lexergy. We'll put them all in, and there we go. And what was I going to say? Raven, think about maybe what we're going to, how we're going to coalesce. If we're going to do coalescence, what's going to happen with ah? So we can have two alternatives with and without coalescence, and we can decide which one we like best. Okay, so fingers crossed. Will this work? Yes. Okay. So this is interesting. We started out with this word as hoska in USTAMIYA call. And we have now gone on so many peregrinations and wanderings that we've actually lost that form in the descendant language in USTAMIYA. We are now at chazira. But we do have forms. Many of the oblique forms are formed on this root chaska or chaska. So maybe there's a chance for some analogy to play a role here. Because if we have widely divergent divergent forms in different cells of a paradigm. The temptation for analogy to get to work and regularize is strong. So, but let's just see what happens without any analogy, and then we can move on from there. So we have me stock friend. So let's put this over here. And I'll move this over to, I don't know, somewhere down here. And then let's write in what we have for crow. So we have chazira. So this is going to be a Q or an X. Let's just leave it as a Q for now. Let's bold this. Genitive is going to look the same. Mistak. Rock is going to look the same. These are always the same. Accusative is going to be chaskari. And here's good evidence that we need this to be a stop rather than a fricative, because in the accusative form it is a stop, while it's ambiguous in the nominative, genitive, and vocative. So we have chazira, haskari. What else? Haskanam. I really like the sound of this. Haskari, haskanam, haskavu. So just so we're marking the irregular stress, or not irregular, but the unexpected stress. Haskabin, and then chaziraba, chazirama, chazirami. Chazirami. Yeah, okay. So this is kind of cool. We have these chazira forms, and then we have these haska forms, and it almost starts to look a little bit like root and pattern morphology, like in Semitic. You can see how, taken to its extreme, you would get a form like a phenomenon like root and pattern morphology, where you have a root that's basically made up of consonants only, and then with different vowels and different arrangements in between and around those consonants, you get different forms of a root. Okay. Yes. All right. Catching up on the chat here. Yeah, so we might have ow go to o, which would merge with u, and so that would give us, instead of haskari, it would be haskuri. So basically it would give us that. Or haskari. So I guess, yeah, so if it has a cot merger as and I'm reading out, sorry, I realize now that this chat's not showing up. So if you're watching this in the future and the chat doesn't show up properly, I'll try and endeavor to read out what people say that I see, so that you can understand what I'm referring to. So Raven writes, we can apply the cot merger, which if you're not familiar with that, I am a speaker of a variety of English that has this merger, where the vowels o and a are merged to a. So cot, C-O-T, cot, pronounced the same. And so Raven's mentioning this in the context that we may have something like ow going to open O, which I can copy and paste here. And then what's the fate of this open O? Is it going to turn into a more closed O that's going to turn to oo? One possibility. Or if we have the cot merger in USTAMIYA, then it would turn into a. different options. Catching up on the chat a bit too. George asks, what is the goal of Qal? It's kind of its own goal. I think to me, the goal of this language family is just to make a cool language family and to have something to share with those of you who enjoy watching the process. So that's I don't have any grander goals, with respect to making some sort of work of fiction or anything like that. However, it's very hard for me to resist once we go down this road for such a ways. It's very hard for me to resist not conlanging, so not conworlding. So building up a little bit of a history, and because so much of language and history are intertwined, especially when you take this heavily diachronic approach that we've been taking. The goal is kind of amorphous, and it may grow as we go. So I'm currently, there's a war raging inside my soul about whether we want to do any world building for this world. And I have to say the forces of world building are they have the upper hand. I'm just trying to figure out how to make that entertaining for you. Because a lot of world building, at least in my process, is, there's a lot of this, there's a lot of this. It's a good deal of, so I want to make sure that there's something engaging for you, because I think it's not great to watch me just sit and ponder. It's also not great for all the work to be done off screen and for me to come back and just show you. So I'm trying to figure out a way to keep that relatively entertaining. I'm going to put in a cut for YouTube here because I think we've given a good overview of what happens to the noun paradigm. And then so I'll cut for YouTube. We'll go back here and thank those of you on YouTube who've been watching and joining us in our adventures in nouns. Come back. We will have more conlanging for you. Oh yeah, and because it's YouTube, I have to say like and subscribe if you wouldn't mind, if you're in the neighborhood. All right, that's that. Okay, my duty's done in that regard. I'm going to briefly pause. I'm going to put on the little be right back thing, and I'm going to see if there's any way to fix this issue with the chat. So just a few minutes. I won't take a huge amount of time if it's not possible, but so I will see you forthwith. Okay, so it looks like we're not going to be able to fix the chat appearing issue right now, but we'll work on that afterwards and see what we can do. I will continue reading things out for everyone who is watching later. And I'm not sure. We had an issue last week where some stuff from Twitch wasn't showing up in the same feed as everything else. So if you are on Twitch and it seems like I'm ignoring you, it's not you. It's me. I don't know how all this stuff works. It's a bit of a mystery, but we persevere, don't we? We persevere. We keep going. So what we've done so far is take the inherited noun paradigm of Proto-Qal, and we've put it into USTAMIYA with some sound changes. Now I think we should do the same to the verbal paradigm, which we have played with a little bit, but I want to make sure that we play with it some more. So without further ado, I'm going to do the little YouTube thing and then we'll go in. So YouTube, hi, welcome YouTube. What we're about to do is we're going to do some verb paradigm diachrony. We're going to take a proto-language verb paradigm and drag it into the future using a sound change applier. So if this is totally new to you, check out the playlist, because this is, we're getting on in the in the series here, and there's probably stuff you want to see from before. But if not, let's just get going. Oh, fancy new hotkeys getting us to where we need to go. All right. So we have our last episode. We made some fun noun paradigms, which you can see here. Noun paradigms. And we are now going to make the verb paradigms. So let's move these things out of the way. And let's look at what we have for verb paradigms in the proto-language. So we have this kind of interesting system where we have different stem classes, and the stem classes are related, have an ablaut relationship to one another. So it's not an extensive ablaut relationship, but what ablaut is, by the way, I know it's another technical term, is when you have a vowel change, which expresses different morphological information, much like English, sing, sang, sung. So that's ablaut, or apophony, it's also called. It's a type of non-concatenative morphology. I had a comment about that on one of the videos, saying, bring in some more non-concatenative morphology. And I thought, all right, you don't have to tell me twice. So we have this system where we have three stems of the verb in Proto-Qal: stem A, stem B, and stem C. And each one, oh goodness, this is super complicated, and it's definitely going to be leveled out by analogy in the descendant languages. We have this vowel a, which in certain contexts shows up as schwa. And we have these different stems. So we have stem A, stem B, and stem C. We have this root ya, or y, which means to do. In stem A, the a shows up as a. The vowel of the root shows up as a. In stem B, it shows up as schwa, and in stem C, it shows up as schwa as well. So that is so we have a paradigm like yafa, the imperative, do. Yusu, something which does, the attributive form, and Yahweh, let's do, sort of hortative form. And so we have all of these, and then we have different endings like fa or su or ahwe or hupa or ta. And all of these endings select for a different stem, one of A, B, or C. And so depending on whether you're in A, B, or C, you're going to get different vocalism, different vowels in the root. So that's the long story short, what's going on in Proto-Qal. And so let's take some of these. There are more complications, but we'll just leave it at that for now. Let's take this verb, ya, and let's put it through the paces. Let's put it through its paces. We have all of these different forms. And we're going to see what happens once we run them through the sound change applier. It may not work. we may have to debug. We may have to roll up our sleeves. And, well, I'm not literally going to roll up my sleeves because I don't want to mess up the jacket, but you get the idea. And we're going to see what happens. So let's take a look. So let's write down what we have here. We have all these different endings, all these different verb forms. So we have, why don't we just put them here? And we have endings like so. So we can just, yeah, why don't we use these? We'll put them in Lexergy. So we have to be mindful of which type of stem each takes to know whether the root is going to show up as y or ya. And we've done it for a few of these, so we can just write them in. Yachupa. Do we have one for, oh yeah, yota. Yota, rather. We have Yachakwa. Let's see, I could just put it in. Go through this. Yeah, there we go. Have this up on this side. Perfect. So stem A is the one with the full vowel. So we have Yafa. We have Ya, which is the predicative form. And then I think for everything else we have Ya. I'm imposing some order on this very, very gradually. Okay. Oh, interesting. So George mentions that one of these forms sounds like a very informal Russian phrase, meaning I'm shocked, which I will not attempt to pronounce. That's cool. Oh, George also has a. Oh, actually, I've missed a few things on the chat. Okay, so George West also asks how to create a case system. I very much doubt that all your systems are awful, but that's the second line of the question. I think the general approach that I like to take is find a natural language, maybe find 2 or 3, and try doing something like okay, I know some people disagree with this method, but I like to do a relex first. So a relex is a relexification. It's just keeping the exact grammar of a natural language and changing the phonological shapes. I like to often start there and then mess with it. And so what I'll do is I'll relex one language and then I'll go find a completely different language and take some idea from that and put it in and kind of cover my tracks so that the relexification isn't obvious. I know some people don't like to do this. They don't like relexification at all in any sort of guise, even if you do cover your tracks afterwards by messing things up by adding material from another language or just from your own invention. Some people don't like that. But for me, part of the big appeal of conlanging is getting an excuse to go read grammars of other languages, especially languages I don't know a lot about. And so this is kind of fun. I enjoy that. And I think it makes me a better linguist in the end. Maybe you don't have the similar kinds of goals and pressures, so take that with a grain of salt. Short answer, I like looking to natural languages and then mixing that with one part of my own inspiration or with another natural language. So hopefully that's something useful. I'm no genius. And then Logan asks, do we have semantic rules for what happens when you stack postpositional cases on different core cases? No, we do not yet have any such rule, but what happens is we have one instance of this so far, and I'll show you where it is. Where is it? yes, we have payawi chaufo. Payawi chaufo. So swan, genitive like. So meaning like of the swan. So this is the only case in which we've used it. So we may actually want to come up with interesting rules for that, and I think that's a great idea. So let's put that in the. I'm gonna put a little note about that. Well, some of this has already been done. I'll have to edit it, but add or maybe figure out rules for stacking cases in Proto-Qal, because some of these stacked cases could actually be the source of just could essentially fuse in some of the descendant languages and just become cases that have their origin in stacked cases, but they're just different case forms in the descendant languages. That's cool. Thank you, Logan. That's good stuff. Where do they fuse in descendants? Okay. What else? Okay, so why don't we look at what this paradigm looks like when we run it through the sound change applier. Fingers crossed that it will work. Apply. It worked. Okay. And we also have, I don't know if Raven's still on, but we have some occasions for coalescence going on. We have schwa and a coming into contact. We have schwa and o coming into contact. So that could be fun to play with as well. Okay, so let's take these. I'm going to just put them here. I don't really remember which one goes with what yet, so I'm going to have to go back over here and we're going to look. So predicative is ya. Done. Continuative is, oops, I chose the wrong side of this. So let's just add a column here. And for those wondering, I saw a comment earlier about advice about Control X. Yes, Control X is a wonderful tool, but the problem is in Google Sheets, if you do Control X, I don't know if it's Google Sheets or in Excel, it will remove the formatting from the cell, and then you have to go and re-add it, and it's a pain. So I always just Control C and then delete. Orchid Colors asks, I'm not entirely sure, but I want to say that Japanese has stacked postpositions, although I can't say that those are all cases. Yes. So actually, classical Japanese is one of the core inspirations for Proto-Qal. So it's no accident that you're seeing that. And the question of whether they're cases or not is actually a really, really interesting one. And we could talk for probably hours about that. We could have a whole weekend conference about the difference between cases and prepositions, postpositions, adpositions. Yeah, it's complicated. I actually tried to research this once myself, and it's all right. It got me into grad school at least. That was my writing sample. Yeah. Okay, so just if I can dwell on that a little bit because it's kind of a cool story. There appear to be some prepositions in some languages which are more case-like, and some cases in case languages that are more preposition-like. What would be a good example? So there are some languages like Irish in which certain class of prepositions inflects for person. So you have something like let's see, air meaning on, and this actually takes personal endings. So orum on me, ort on you, blah blah blah. Air on him, he on her, etc. And this kind of messing about with the this kind of messing about with expressing person, number, gender features on a preposition is not something that applies to all prepositions in Irish. It's just a sort of a limited subset. And so I thought, is this kind of similar? Could you think of, instead of thinking of this as on me, could you think of this as like a superessive case? This is the pronoun, the first person singular pronoun superessive form. If you think of it like that. So it's not an inflecting preposition, it's a personal pronoun with a certain case. And so there seem to be these more prepositional elements, these more case-like elements, and drawing the line between them is thorny. And I mean, I didn't pursue this because it's really thorny, actually. And you need something that you can actually finish. But yeah, that's kind of cool. All right, so what were we talking about? Oh yeah, we have all these forms here, and we got to fill our... I need to move this over so that you can see everything. There we go. So we have... This is the proto form, this is the USTAMIYA form, and I just need to slot them into this verb paradigm. So the predicative form is ya. The continuative form is yiba. So that's going to look like that. What's the next one? Did I get this right? Am I just losing it? Let's just predicative. Okay. So I need a little bit more. So this is what we have in the proto form. Sorry, I'm going to clean all this up and it's going to be all nice and good at some point, but not yet. Okay, so we have ya here, yiba here. Past tense is yida. Negative, we actually don't know, so we haven't done that yet. We have presumptive achwe, so that's yiri. Conditional 2, this is yik. So put that here. Attributive, this is the su form, so yizi. Substantive, this is the chakwa form. So we have yira. Conditional 1, this is the tochwa form, so we have yiduch. Concessive, this is the falo form, so we have valu. Yivalu. And imperative, this is the fa form, so we have yava. Cool. Okay, so get rid of all of that. Take this over here. There we go. And so we have this interesting case. Not case in the sense of noun case, but this interesting situation where we have some forms of this verb ya, to do, where the stem shows up as ya, and then many other ones where the stem shows up as yi. And I'm okay with that. This is a kind of a very common verb. It's the kind that if you expect any to be irregular, something like to do is surely one of them. So yeah, we have a slightly irregular verb in USTAMIYA, ya, with this form yi that shows up in a lot of the different inflected forms. That's so cool. Okay, so then let's take a more regular verb, one where we don't see this alternation of a and e, and let's look at what happens there. And this can be kind of our prototype for regular verbs in USTAMIYA. So what do we have that might be a good case of that? And memona. Memona, maybe osasa. Osasa to, oh no, that's a dynamic stem. So this is a little thing I did. I don't know if I did this on screen or not. Things where we see the change in stem vowel. Some verbs allow this, some just ignore it and just always stay the same. So I've called those static and dynamic stems in the proto-language. So anything with a D has the potential for being irregular in this way. Anything with an S does not. So let's find a good verb. I feel like anato. That's a good one. To enclose. Anato. So let's go over here and let's put that here and just copy all of these over. And then we have anato for all of these. Cool. And there's one other thing, because of some complicated stuff that we won't talk about now. The static stems have some different endings than the dynamic stems. So I'll just go back to that and go back to the proto. Where on earth is it? Here it is. So instead of haqua, they have haqua for the substantive form, and instead of ta, they have ta for the past form. Okay. What do I always say? You gotta stay limber. You gotta stay limber when you're conlanging, or else you'll regret it. Speak from personal experience there. Okay, so back to the USTAMIYA grammar. So we have. Actually, I should pause for questions. Raven's got some coalescences for us, so I'm going to put those in here. So we might go. And one thing that's nice is we're not married to any of these proposals yet. That's kind of funny. So we can play around and see what looks best. I'm just going to write down Raven's suggestions here. These look great. Ooh, nice. Ooh, nice arrows, Raven. Okay, so let's continue. All right, so I guess all we have to do is run the sound changes. Apply. And I didn't even do the fingers crossed thing. I am getting, what's it called? Hubris is coming over me. I'm becoming over proud. All right, so then so we have antu is the, this is the part of the problem with doing it in spreadsheet form. Do. And then we have to enclose. And so to enclose is antu. And what else? Continuative form is aniduda. Oh, interesting. You see, this is what happens. You can't see it. It's a bit off screen, but the font size is slightly different. Do you notice that? I notice. Take that. Okay, so then there's that. The past form is anidut. So these are slightly out of order, but whatever. And we have the negative, which we have not decided on, which I guess we should, but we're not going to right now. Anturi. So that rounding is due to vowel harmony, not reflected in the orthography, because it's totally allophonic. I should also mark down where things are stressed in unexpected ways, such as this, anturi. What else? Antuk. Attributive. aniduzi. Substantive antuduch. Antuduch. And is that correct? No, that's not correct. That's conditional 1. Colin, what's wrong with you? Substantive is antuk. So it's actually homophonous with the conditional 2. Interesting. Concessive is the falu form, so antuvalu. And then imperative is aniduva. Okay. Woo, interesting. Did I miss one? Oh, I did. This is wrong. It should be antuba. And then if we are to you can't see the vowel combos. Thank you, Moon. Moon Truther. Helping out. Reminding me what's off screen. Yeah, the stream thing is not exactly the same orientation as my monitor, and sometimes I forget. Okay, so here are our vowel combos. Apologies in retrospect to people on YouTube who are watching and saying, "Oh, what are you doing?" Colin, what are you doing? All right, so what do we learn from this? We learned that even this regular verb antu has 2 forms, 2 stems, antu and anidu, which is kind of interesting. That sounds like something that would probably want to analogize out. I don't know. Yeah, I think we may want to analogize that out. If we're going to have regular verbs, I don't want every verb in this language to have such divergent forms. For the really common ones, yes. So what we might do is just converge on the predicative form and do something like antu, antuba, antut, antuchi, anturi, rather. Sorry, this should be written with a P. Anturi, antuk. Instead of anitusi, we have antusi. And then instead of aniduva, we have anduva. And then this leaves only the question of coalescences. So if we are to pursue the coalescence route, which I'm more and more inclined to do the more I think about it, we would use something like this. So schwa giving us schwa-a and ashwa both giving us a. And so if we were to do that, then we would get something like antaba and antari rather. So that, again, that might end up being analogized out in the case of a regular verb due to the strength of antu, 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 antu everywhere. The stress shift, I think, would probably stay, but because that's fairly transparent. But the fact that u verbs are going to show up as a in some forms, I don't know. I don't know. Question from Raven Might. The removed e was actually stressed. Yes, it actually. So in the case of aniduzi, the inherited form would be aniduzi. But what we've done is we've analogized it because we have this root antu. And so instead of using the regular form that we'd expect due to sound change, we exercise analogical privilege, and we replace the root aniduzi. We replace the root component in aniduzi with antu. So then we get antuzi. Totally just analogy, which is always a force in language change, undoing all the cool weirdness that happens due to sound change. And so then we can look at this and say, okay, what are the endings? What are the what are the forms in the synchronic grammar in the minds of speakers of USTAMIYA? So we have something like, so I'm going to move us a little bit over. Can we do it? There. So we have something like nothing for the predicative form. We have something like ba with stress shift. I don't know how to write that concisely, so let's just move us over a little bit, please. There we go. We don't need this. We don't need these. And then we have T in the case of, so these are the regular endings here. Sorry. So we have T, don't know for that. We have ri plus stress shift. We have Q for conditional 2. We have Z for the attributive. We have Q for the substantive. We have, colon please, be consistent with how you spell things. Tuch for the conditional 1. We have valu for the concessive. And we have fa for the imperative. And the question is, okay, so then there are a few questions. I'll follow up on Raven Might's question, where should the stress fall in regularized forms? So we have a basic stress rule, which is anti-penultimate in USTAMIYA. USTAMIYA, like that's a good way to remember it. The only time that we see divergence from that is when there's some kind of coalescence that in the proto-language, or there's hiatus in the proto-language that was resolved by coalescence, and then we had a long vowel at some intermediate stage which attracted stress. That only happens in morphologically complex forms. So no morpheme has a vowel-vowel sequence in it in the proto-language. So we can kind of safely say that any morphologically simplex, well, okay, I need to maybe stop with the terminology. Any form that does not contain multiple morphemes is going to have anti-penultimate stress. At least as a general rule, there may be some forms in USTAMIYA which historically had multiple morphemes, but synchronically in the minds of the speakers do not. And they may or may not have different stress patterns, or have the potential for different stress patterns. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of cool. And then we have actually some different endings for the irregular forms. Only for some of them. So we have all the same. So for regular verbs and for irregular verbs, this is still the same, same. But for irregular verbs, we have ha, same. So we can say and that's kind of cool. So that's our paradigm. We still need to come up with a negative, but we can do that in the context of some sort of text, I think. Right. Okay. I think I'll cut it there, and then we'll go over and we'll talk about Lang 3B, which we'll actually give a proper name to. So we'll do my little YouTube thing where I go out to the main camera and thank everyone. Thank you for joining us on YouTube in the distant future. Watching this, I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I hope it's showing you a bit of the process. And of course, if you're watching this in the playlist and you've seen this far, well, you know what this is all about. So, but if not, hey, subscribe. More will always be coming. We've got a lot of Conlang content coming at a rapid pace. So consider joining us for that, and we'll see you next time. Give the the big thumbs up at the end there. Okay. I never know how to end these things, so I'll just revel in it being kind of cheesy and awkward. I think that, that can be a brand. All right. During the exercises, keeping everything limber, doing the danger field. Okay, Lang 3B. This is the one that is influenced by Old French, or at least this is how I think of it. A lot of the sound changes are similar to what we have with Old French. So I'm going to take our, let's see, what am I going to do? I'm going to take our sound changes for USTAMIYA out of Lexergy, and I'm going to put in the Lang 3B sound changes, which are really intense and really, I wrote them in a very ugly fashion this morning, somewhat in a hurry. So hopefully they're all okay. Let me just make sure that they run. They do and they don't. More like they don't. So we have to use a different verb. Instead of anato, I'll have to come up with something else. I think we'll start with the verbs. Maybe afi, to be thus. Excuse me while I just briefly do this. I know it's entertaining watching me Control V. If there were a better way, I would definitely do it. Running out of water in the No, not so bad. Okay. Let's make sure this works. Okay, good. Good, okay. So, I'm going to do the YouTube intro. Oh, before I do the YouTube intro, I see something really cool. What if we took the word Lang 3B and made it fit the phonology? Let's do that. Okay. I'm here for a good time. Moon Truther. Great minds think alike. Well done. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have to... This will be an exercise in kind of loanword phonology into Proto-Qal. And so we'll have to take Lang 3B and... Okay, why don't we just... Let's get started. Okay, I'll do the YouTube intro and then we'll get started. Enough prattling on. YouTube, hi, welcome. It's very good to have you here. What we're about to do is make a little bit of progress on another language in the Qal family. So if you are unfamiliar with the Qal family, and if the word Proto-Qal is a totally new one to you, then I would suggest checking out the playlist that this is connected to. Go see that, come back, see what we're going to do here. Because what we're going to do here is work on the Lang 3B, a language with such a cool name, Lang 3B. And so we're actually going to give it a proper name today. And then we're going to work on some verbs and some nouns, if there's time. We'll see. I don't know if there'll be time, but if there's time. So in we go. Yeah. Okay. So if anyone is curious behind the scenes, what's going on, we have our Lexergy sound changer here, which is great. Slightly off screen, the title, but you can sort of see it. And these are my rules. They're ugly as sin. I did not have a chance to clean them up. But the important thing is not what they look like, but what they do. And so you can sort of see what happens. We have two verbs here. One irregular verb in Proto-Qal, ya, which has an ablaut stem change in certain forms going to y, which you can see in, say, yutta. And then the verb afi, which means to be thus or to be so, to be like that. And it is a regular verb, and it has all of these lovely endings that go on it. Afita, afihupa, afihupa, afite, afiahue, these kinds of things. And what happens when they go into Lang 3B is, yeah. So ya actually stays as ya. That's at least something, right? But yeta becomes ith. Yehupa becomes if. Yeta, we had that one already. Ith. Yahweh becomes yaish. Yaish. I think I got that right. Yaish. Yeokwe becomes yoke. Yesu becomes is. Yechakwa becomes ilk. Yutochwa becomes either. Yefalo becomes evil. That's evil. And Yafa becomes Yaf. So a huge amount of changes going on here, which we decided on a long time ago, but we're just getting back to it now. The only thing that is different, I've added a few extra things like final devoicing. I added that, and I also added. I basically wanted to make all the unstressed vowels into schwa, which I think works for this language. So we have this paradigm here. So I think, why don't we just start going back to our lang 3b, and we have one sentence written with lang 3b's grammar, which we've decided about, but with the phonology of Proto-Qal. So we just need to play the tape forward on these sound changes and see what it will look like. So that's on our agenda. So another thing on our agenda, though, is to give this language a name. And before we started this video, some people in the chat had a really good idea. And to give them credit, I'm here for a good time. And Moon Truther, great minds, thought alike, came up with this idea where we take the string lang 3b, adapt it to Proto-Qal phonology, and then run it through the sound changes and get a cool, I don't know, something cool for the name. So why don't we do that? So let's look at the Proto-Qal grammar. We don't actually have a phonology formally written out anywhere, do we? But you can see, so I can say a few things about the phonology when we're looking at some of the forms. So we have here a fairly strict CV language. We can have vowel initial words or vowel initial morphemes technically, but otherwise it is a strict CV language, so consonant, vowel, syllable structure only. So let's approach this by heading to the bottom of this and adapting the phonology. So lang, so I need to get the IPA keyboard out, I think. Go to the full version. Lang. Where is the okay, one wrong move and I tell you everything goes crazy. Looks like I have to do this manually. So this is the source string, and how are we going to adapt this? So let's take this and go over here and put it here. The first question, do we have la in the language? Yes, we do. As we can see here, tona la. So that's fine. Do we have a? No. What's the closest? A. So here we go. Velar nasal. Do we have a velar nasal? We do not. So we can change this to lan. And then we need an epenthetic vowel. What better epenthetic vowel is there than schwa? Lan. We don't have any interdental fricative, so we can change this to either t or s. Lanata, lanata, lanasa. I don't know. Let's try it with t. And since we are dealing with the CV structure, we have another schwa here. And then we don't have r, we just have, I believe, la. And we have no voicing contrast in stops, so we have lanatalipi, which looks pretty cool. All right, so let's see if this Actually, we'll run through, or if this is a case that I haven't provided for in the rules of Lexergy. So we can remove all of this. And actually, you know what? I'm loath to remove this without putting it somewhere. So I'm just going to put it into here, where I just put everything, random collection of copy paste stuff. And let's go back and let's come up with our name. Is it going to work? I have my doubts. Drum roll, please. No, it doesn't work. Okay. I think it's because we have a syllable structure that's not prepared for both of these schwas being deleted. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Okay, for the purposes of making this work, let's just get rid of one of the schwas. Let's get rid of both schwas. Okay, there we go. Now we have to, I'm going to have to do some coding in this thing to make it work and to make the syllable structure recognize what we're doing. But for now, we have something, at least, which is linguistics, which actually sounds kind of cool. What would it be? Okay, I know this. I can do this. I'm not going to try and code, but I can come up with what it would be if these schwas did actually delete. So we would have something like, actually we would really have an invalid syllable structure here. Oops. Come back. So we would have, I think we would have linguistics. I don't know. Never think of the blackboard, as they always say. I think linguistics is pretty good. So if we accept that these are not schwas, but rather as, and by the way, in pre-Proto-Qal, schwa and a were the same phoneme. So if we have lanatalipi or lanatalipi, then we have indeed linguistics. And I actually kind of like that. Linguistics. Yeah, linguistics. Okay, I'm happy with this. Yep, yeah, Raven. I'm gonna be debugging this off screen. Don't worry. You know, I'll probably save it for Friday evening. You know, this is typical Friday evening activity. But let's put in a little note in our planning. Debug lang 3b Lexergy syllable structure. Great. Keep yourself organized. Linguistics. Moon Truther writes, "This is a cellar door moment. This is a cellar door moment." I agree, I couldn't agree more. Something just, it's kismet. I don't know what it is. We couldn't have planned it. It just happened. Linguistics. I love this. This is perfect. Okay. Calling it linguistics. We don't have an orthography yet for this language, but we'll come up with something. Lang 3b is now officially linguistics. Oh my goodness. I love it. Okay, I'm just going to, let's see how, does Google Sheets like IPA in the tab, in the names of tabs? Linguistics. Excuse me, keep that nice in front. It does. Okay, you can't see it because it's off screen, but it worked. Okay. All right. I'm happy. I'm pleased. I think we're doing well. So let's go back and let's do a verb conjugation. Let's see what the regular and irregular verb endings are for linguistics. Oh, it feels so good to have it there. Okay, so let's go here. We have our two verbal paradigms, which we have here. And we are going to have a little chart like we have for USTAMIYA. the verb paradigms. Let's just copy this over to Linguistics. My tabs are getting out of control. I have way too many. My life is falling apart, but I still have a cool name. Linguistics. Yeah, we might back that at some point. Linguistics. Just sounds a bit nicer. Okay, so to enclose. So we just take these out. Okay, and we are ready. So let's apply. And we get our verb paradigms. We can just write them out. I won't try and make any phonemic notation because I don't honestly know what is phonemic in this language yet. We'd have to actually analyze it. But yeah, if, ith, yaish, yoke, just remove all of this. Is, ilk, either, and I'll put in the stress for anything polysyllabic. Concessive evil, and imperative yaf. So that's obviously a heavily irregular verb. But yeah, as we said before, for USTAMIYA, if there's going to be an irregular verb, do is probably it. Do, be, have. These are all prime candidates. And then we have our regular, what is supposed to be a regular verb. We'll see just how regular it is. Okay, we have eif, to enclose, to be thus. I think we're using for this language. So eif. Then we have avif, eivet, oops, no. Come back, stress markers. Eivet. Avish. Actually, we can probably just write these all in, can't we? There we go. That's what it's all about. Avish, avik, Ivus, aviuk, avitha, avival, and ivuf. So this reminds me a lot of romance, because we have these verb paradigms in which the number of syllables in Latin, in the forms in Latin, changed which syllable was stressed. And because the fates of stressed and unstressed syllables are so different in the Romance languages, we get cases where we have paradigms like what would be a good example? Cerrar, to close, and cierra, closes. So that we have diphthongization when that vowel was stressed in Latin, but no diphthongization when that vowel was not stressed in Latin. So we have kind of a similar thing happening here. So we have this verb eif, which also has a stem avi. And so maybe I actually think that this could fit the vibe of this language if it continued. So each verb, to know a verb, you have to know sort of the two principal parts of the verb. You have to know the form that came about when stress is in one position, so eif, and when stress was in another position, avi. And so, when people are learning this in school, they learn, okay, how do you say to be thus? It's the verb eif avi. And then you just add your forms onto that. So then what are the endings? So no regularization, no analogy. What are the endings? What can we glean? we have, so ignoring to do, because that is just really irregular, but we have the ending f, and so we'll call this stem A, the I stem, and a V we'll call the stem B. So to make the predicative form, you just leave stem A alone. To make the continuative form, you suffix F to stem B. To make the past form, you suffix ut to stem A, and you voice it. So actually, what we have here is I've, which is going to show up as I've because it's word final. We have word final devoicing. Okay, so that's fine. Then we have a vish, so we have attaching sh to stem B. A vik, attaching k, suffixing k to stem B. Ivus, to attach us to stem A. Moon Truther writes, it might be worth checking another verb. Yeah, that's probably true. I may have to eat my words because this is a very complicated derivation. But nevertheless, let's finish this one up. And if we're wrong, right? I say like you were wrong. No, it's me who's wrong. For substantive, we suffix wk to stem B. For conditional one, we suffix the to stem B. For concessive, we suffix vul to stem B. And for imperative, we suffix uf to stem A. Okay, so that's our first hypothesis. Now let's try another verb. Okay, what else do we have? We want one that's marked with S because that's going to be, it's not going to have ablaut. So let's see. And one without a lot of schwas because I think schwas are going to cause us trouble with, I'm going to have to debug these rules. So let's find one that's, we don't actually have a lot, do we? Anato, that doesn't work because of the schwa. Musata, memona, those are going to be trouble. Let's just try another one. Let's make one up. So what do we have? What could be good? We could try sefa, to wash. That's going to have a different vowel, at least at the end, and a different vowel in the middle. It's going to have F still, so maybe we could try something else. What about... So many schwas. Who put all these schwas in the language? Colin, you've done it again. You've painted yourself into a corner. It's sad, really. You hate to see it. All right, so we know... somane. Somane, and then follow. Palane. So this might work. Let's just see. Let's just see if it does. So first of all, let's put in just the bare form, see if it computes. Okay, it does. Oh, that looks so cool. Soima. And then let's see if we can handle having a suffix on. Yep, okay, looks like we're going to be fine. Okay, so somane and palana, let's just say these are static forms, and where's the other one? Somane. To live. All right, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. So, I could use sonafate too. Okay, so let's take our afi forms. Apologies for the somewhat annoying copy paste fest. Oops. Always enjoyable, I'm sure. And then let's do the same thing with palana. I suspect that we will get some different outcomes, so this is going to be fun. So palana, palanachupa. Says everyone's day going. Decent. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. Is it going to run? No, it doesn't like it. What doesn't it like? Palan. Yeah. All right, let's keep. We'll do palana later once I've debugged. But I think we should be fine. There we go. We're fine with somane. So I'm just going to put this palana stuff away here. And we can... Okay, so we have... Oops. And we don't have a negative yet, so we just got to align these. Okay, let's see if our guesses were correct. So we have these two stems for to be thus, which is aiv and avi. We appear to have two stems for... Oh, what happened there? Bold, please. And it went back to font size 10. I cannot abide it. Okay, so we have samane. And... Oh, we have this. Okay, this is interesting. We have 3 forms for this one. We have 3 forms. Okay, what are we going to do? This is good. This is good. So we have verbs with 3 principal parts. We have samane, samaina, and soima. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. All right. So we're just going to figure out what's going on here. So we have to rename our stems. Just going to get rid of these dots because they bother me. Here. Okay. So, but let's look at our endings to make sure that they at least still stay the same. And I think they do. So do we have suffix of uf, vul, the, wuk, us, k, sh, ut, f, and nothing. So, oh, I just saw a little reconnecting and my heart skipped a beat. Hopefully that was just on Google's end and not, things didn't stop for you, hopefully. Fingers crossed. All right, so what do we have here? So the endings are all the same. And Raven points out that this is an I mutation issue, and indeed it is. I have a rather ugly I mutation rule here. Actually, all front vowels will front all vowels in front of them. Yeah. Okay, so what do we have? We have stem A, which is the predicative form. We're going to keep calling this stem A. So I've. But then we have this, and then we have a V and samane. We're going to still call this stem B. But then we have, in this case, a third stem. So this is actually stem C. Samine, or samine. So that's stem C. Saminus, stem C. Saminuf, stem C. And in the case of Ive, stem A is Ive, stem B is a V, and stem C is Ive. In the case of soima, stem A is soima, stem B is samane, and stem C is samine. Samine. There we go. And again with these random font size changes. Okay, I actually really like this. What was samane? What did that mean? To live, I think. Maybe we have to do 2 of these. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I kind of like that. I kind of love that. Okay. Lena Vailef, you are becoming a fast favorite of mine. Well, I was going to take this little sentence here and run it through our sound changer player, but I have no faith that this won't collapse and give us errors. So I will probably, well, why don't we do what we can, right? Could be fun. Let's see. So we've dealt with all of these. Let's see what we have. I really wish I could just make this a little bit bigger. There's no, you see what I'm trying to do here? I'm trying to pull it. It doesn't work. So let's just do what we can, and then we'll call it a day, I think. So my voice can recover before the other things I have to do later on. So is it going to work? No. Okay, so what's the thing that's a problem? A bunch of schwas in a row, so we'll take that out. And Masafa is also going to be a problem. Okay, so we got most of them working. So what do we have here? A Viduk. So I'm just going to write it. I need more rows. Give me more rows. A Viduk. Payawicha, or yeah, Payawicha. What's that going to turn into? Fire. 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 I think. I'm bad at this semi-vowel here. Fire. Nafia. Nafia. Naiva. Mona. Mon. And then we don't know what's Masalia is going to be, but we have something glorious. We have something absolutely glorious, because wakwama, which is our word for like in, well, it's the root that's giving us like in Lanadailaf, is uch. So we went from wakwama to uch. And that's kind of like a aqua to o level change, in my opinion. Why don't we run through it, and then we'll stop. Oh, you can't see. Sorry. What is wrong with me? You can't see what I'm doing. There you go. Now you can. So, aviduk, fire, naiva, mon, something, something. I'm proud of this. I'm proud of us. This is a thing of beauty. Lena Vailef. Oh, You love it. Okay, what we're going to do, let's walk through what happened with, no, that's not right. Trace evolution of Wakwama. So we have to take this out and we can see step by step what happened. So I'm going to bring this over here and just sort of paste it out here. So we go, we assign stress. So this is the Proto-Qal stress assignment rule. Stress is going to be anti-penultimate, Wakwama. Then we delete schwa, going from Wakwama to Wakwama. Then we voice obstruents in between vowels or sonorants. So we go from Wakwama to Wagma. Then we take that labial element and throw a glide in front of the consonants. So from Wagma to Waugma. Then we apply apocopy. So we lose our last vowel. And with that vowel, we also lose any consonant that's hanging on that we can't syllabify otherwise. So from Waugma, I skipped a step. Then we have to lenite. So we lenite this g, this stop, from Waugma to Waugma. Then we apply apocopy. So we go from Waugma to Waug, apocopy, final vowel loss. And then we apply triphthong simplification. So when we have a w on either side of a vowel, it's going to go oo. So similarly, if you have yai, it's going to turn to e. If you have yai, it's going to turn to e. And so similarly, wow is going to turn into oo. So wow turns to oo, and then we have final devoicing, which takes us from oog to oog. And that is how it happened. Okay. I think it is now time for us to hang up our hats, to relax a bit, and just, I think maybe we could all tonight just, or this morning, or wherever it is where you are, just practice saying Linathailaf. 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 I know that's what I'll be doing. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining and watching what I believe was a little bit of magic that happened here today. And if you like this and you're not already subscribed, maybe give it some thought, ponder it. Go on a long walk and ponder it, because I think it may be something that you enjoy, because more and more of this is coming. So with that, I'll end on a sort of a cheesy freeze frame for Lucy. Okay. Yep. Cheesy freeze frame accomplished. Check. And now to you, the people who are here, who've taken time out of your day, your night, your evening, wherever it is, whenever it is, you come to join us, and you have made this so much richer. So thank all of you so much. It really just, I don't know. It's cheesy of me to say, but hey, that's my brand, right? So it really does bring me so much joy to know that all of you are out there and interested in this kind of thing and willing to take time out of your day to come and hang out and make languages. So thank you so much. Next Tuesday, what you doing? Around 2 p.m. Eastern time. If you're free, come join us, because we're going to be doing more of this, either this, or we might do some of our other language family, the isolating, analytic, SVO, Southeast Asian influenced family. We might be doing some of that. We might be doing some of this. We need a name for that too. I'm waiting on YouTube to give me the community tab, because we have now reached 500 on YouTube, and then I can give out polls and things. And so we have some candidate names that I will put to you, and see if you see which one you like, and then we will name that family as well. Okay. I'm going to go rest my voice for a while now. Thanks again, everyone, and we will see you next week, next Tuesday and next Thursday. Matinat. Okay. Bye.